How's it going, everybody? DJ K DuB Omaha, Wired Access Podcast with the All Axcess Granted.
I didn't want that to be the standard. I didn't want someone else in the room to set the standard. I always wanted to do that.
The journey to get there, I think, is something, that is amazing.
Let's get this podcast started.
That's right. It is Wired Access, All Axcess Granted. I'm your host, DJ K DuB Omaha. Today we have the Husker legend, or more than just a catch, but also a man who set the atmosphere on fire, Jordan Westerkamp. Jordan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on. And of course, through your life and tribulation, along with all the stuff that you did for the Huskers, you're getting to give back to the game now as a wide receiver coach for DuPage College. We're going to kind of go through all the stuff of one, I have to say probably the recruiting from when you were getting recruited back in 2012, 2013.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Compared to now, though, is still a night and day difference, like the availability, the way to get your tape out, stuff like that. So, of course, we're going to go hard in the paint on that stuff. But, I'd be remorse if I didn't show, one of the major things that people always remember about Jordan Westerkamp. We're going to go ahead and hit one of the catches of the two. We'll play both of them tonight, but here's one that many will remember.
Trips to the near side. Kellogg gets a shotgun snap. Final play of the game. Ron waiting for the wideouts to get downfield. Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up. Ron waiting for the wideouts to get downfield. Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up. Ball tipped in the air. Caught! Touchdown! Jordan Westerkamp! Nebraska wins the game on the final play of the contest. Oh, baby!
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! What a scene in Lincoln, baby! Woo!
The ball is deflected up in the air at about the 1-yard line. Westerkamp behind the scrub. Caught the deflection in the end zone, and Nebraska wins the game 27-24.
Man, the miracle catch, they called you the magician. Jordan, welcome to the show. First of all, I want to say thank you very much. How's life right now?
Yeah, well, number one, I really appreciate the intro. Every time I see that Hail Mary, it still gives me chills to this day. So it's such a special moment for me. And obviously with some of the tougher stuff that happened this past year with Greg Sharp, that made it even a little bit more special. That guy's a legend. He's a legend. He's the voice of the Huskers. He always will be. And I'm happy that I was able to share that moment and that memory with him. That'll be with me for the rest of my life. But yeah, life is good, and I really appreciate your flexibility. Life is life, and man, it's married, beautiful wife Christina. I've got a little baby boy. His name's Brooke. He's a year. He's a year and 3 months. My wife's currently pregnant. We're expecting our second child here in early December. So life is
getting that family going.
Yes, sir. So that we got that going on. This past year, I took the coaching job, the wide receiver position coach, over at the College of DuPage, which is a phenomenal opportunity for myself. Such a great program over there, a decorated program. They win national championships, but it seems like every single year. So Coach Ron, the head coach, he's gotten a great thing going on over there. It's been an honor and privilege to be a part of that staff. And I got essentially my first season under my belt now. We play in the national championship here. It's either December 5th or 6th. I can't remember, but it's a Saturday. So we're playing for the national championship at our level, the JUCO level. So we're excited for that. Outside of that, I run my own sports performance facility located in Wheaton, Illinois here. So it's just a lot going on. It's all good things. It keeps me busy. But, I couldn't be happier. I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am.
Well, you started out in Illinois, and you started at a prep school in high school, and then now you're back, around that state. It's weird because Nebraska was just a little blip, but it was such a big part of your history, and of who you are today. And of course, when you look back at just even your high school, your prep school, what does that kind of consider? What would you kind of consider? Is it like the normal prep schools to where you really travel and get to play some teams, or was it just kind of a name? And I say that because here in Omaha we have Creighton Prep.
Right.
None of them have really kind of traveled until just recently, where Millard South traveled twice.
Yeah.
Now Prep traveled to play other prep schools. What was that like for you growing up?
Yeah, so I went to Montini Catholic High School. They're located in Lombard, and we did travel. I remember we played a team out in Wisconsin one year, but we didn't. The game is so much different at every level now. That stuff used to be far and in between. Now it seems like every single week you got a team from this state traveling to play this team from this state, and I love that. I think that increases the competitive atmosphere. Because how many guys Texas has the best high school football. Well, California, Illinois. Well, now they get to play each other, and then they set up games like that. It's very cool to see. It's very cool to watch how the game of football at the high school level is growing. I think that's very cool.
What do you remember was some of the major hits for when you were in high school when it came to the recruiting process for yourself? What were some of the things that you went through that now you could kind of relate for the athletes that you're looking for?
Yeah. I was very fortunate. I had an extremely decorated high school career, and I kind of hit the radar as a freshman playing on varsity and doing some things and getting playing time. And then my sophomore year, I had a huge sophomore year, and I got my first offers from the University of Illinois and Northwestern. And obviously, those schools, they want to keep their in-state guys. So I was on the radar. They had known about me. My dad was a very good high school football player who was heavily recruited as well. He played at the University of Illinois. So I was on teams' radars, and Illinois and Northwestern, they pulled the trigger early on me. So I started to get exposure pretty quick. And then from there, generally when you get an offer, it's very similar to this day and age. When you get 1, 2, the dominoes start to fall and other teams start to offer, and it just kept growing and growing. And as a junior, I committed to Nebraska as a junior, so relatively early. I made that commitment, and that was done. And then late, my senior year, I just kept having a bigger season after a bigger season after a bigger season in high school, sophomore to junior, senior. Notre Dame came in, not real late, but they just kept hammering away the recruiting. They just wouldn't stop. So I ended up taking a visit to Notre Dame my senior year. And that was a funny conversation I had to have with Coach Pelini at the time, letting him know that I was going to do that, which is a good story. But I took a visit to Notre Dame, and I didn't like it. It confirmed my commitment to Nebraska. I stayed with Nebraska, obviously.
How did Nebraska even come on your radar? Like, obviously, getting the offer is one thing, but especially in that time, I mean, yes, we had the 9, winning consecutively, with 9 wins. So that was obviously something to look forward to. We know that Illinois and Northwestern weren't kind of where they are today.
Right.
They're making waves now. But what was that like for you? And obviously you threw in a factor that not everybody has, where dad plays and
right.
follow a legacy. What was that kind of like for you before you really decided on Nebraska?
Yeah. So, I'm from Illinois. Right? I didn't grow up in Nebraska. I didn't know anything about the tradition of Nebraska, none of that stuff, nothing about the 90s. I didn't know any of that. My dad obviously did, but I was born in 94. I didn't have that whole background of like, oh my God, I bleed red and yada, yada, yada from the moment I was born. They sent me, and it's different now, and this is funny, they sent me in the mail a little USB drive that I plugged into my computer that showed me, that talked about the history, that showed me their current facilities and gave me all that information. And it just blew me off my feet. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Coach Garrison at the time was the recruiting coordinator for the area. And he had reached out, but their initial contact was a letter and a little that contained a little USB drive that I just plugged into my parents' computer at the time, and it was like a slideshow type thing. And I just think, wow, this is awesome. And the recruiting coordinator, as I mentioned, John Garrison, Coach Garrison, he just kept reaching out, and he built that great relationship with me. And I just sort of fell in love with Nebraska. It's weird because a lot of guys will say this. It's like it's a feeling like when you know. It's weird. It's weird with Nebraska. Just from the moment I started to see things, I just I just loved them. I loved it. I loved everything about them. I love that they were transitioning to the Big Ten because I knew I wanted to stay local. I was a homebody. I wanted to stay in the Midwest. Built up great relationships with all the coaches. Coach Fisher was the wide receivers coach at the time, and loved Coach Fisher. Coach Pelini reminded me a lot of my high school head coach at the time. Very Italian, fiery, in your face, lets you know when you screw up, which I love that. I thought that was great. I mean, that was my style. So just kind of everything clicked. I planned an unofficial visit. I visited Nebraska as a junior. I went on a junior day. It was a junior day, but it was the spring game. And you know how the spring games go there. It's 60,000 plus fans. It's unbelievable. I'm there. I'm treated like royalty. All the fans are screaming. Like they already know who I am. Like, this is unbelievable. I just got blown off my feet. So there was like that all when I was there. The facilities were top notch. Their academics were phenomenal. I love the campus. It was the best of all worlds. You got your small town feeling. It's obviously located in Lincoln, so you get the city feel, the suburban feel, all things that I kind of grew up with. It felt like home. It felt like a second home. Everything made sense, and I fell in love, and I knew, and that's why I committed early as a junior.
Well, and then you mentioned, of course, going through your junior year, you've obviously had those local offers. Did you do any officials with Illinois and with Northwestern? If so, what was some things that they did good, and what was some things that was like not fully selling to? Was it more of just your personal feeling, like you said, when you know, or was it more of just what you saw just didn't add up to where you were looking to go?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, University of Illinois and Northwestern, those are the first ones, and I had a really, really good relationship with Coach Fitzgerald, which makes the Hail Mary play even better. But I had a great relationship with him, and he was at my high school what seemed like every other week, just in my ear, talking about Northwestern. With U of I mentioned my father went there. I took unofficial visits to both of those places. No official. My only two officials were Nebraska and Notre Dame. But I took unofficials there as a junior before I committed, obviously, to Nebraska. And just at the time, neither of the programs compared to Nebraska. Coach Zook was the head coach at U of I, and I knew that he was on the way out because he was fired, I think, like the next season or whatnot. So there was never really a chance I was going to be going there because there was going to be uncertainty. At Northwestern, they were obviously a great program, but they just weren't winning at that time. So that was something I looked at. And then Nebraska, just facility-wise and all that stuff, just blows them out of the water. And obviously, they've made some improvements since what feels like 1886 when I was going on these trips. But
back when Jesus was young.
Just there was so many things.
And you're just like living so old right now. I hear you. So then, of course, you look at that high school career and you think about that part, like, was it something where you fully applied yourself, or was there things, if you look back at a young Jordan Westerkamp, that you'd go, I wish I would have, or I should have, that maybe athletes nowadays could really use as words of thought besides the cliche stuff, right? You work hard, you get hard to, with the results that you do, or is there, because I've talked to a couple, BK was well open about the fact that he just did not apply himself. It's not a matter of he didn't have the talent. He just didn't fully always apply it because he didn't have to, because he was talented, and I think some people take that for granted, and others, I think for yourself, just from what I saw in college, it looked like you took advantage of every rep that you could,
right,
and never left anybody to go, did this guy fully live everything he could have on that field?
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm very lucky. You mentioned, not a lot of guys experience the recruiting process and have a dad or father who was recruited as heavily as you were, who had seen the process up front, knew what college football was all about. So I was very lucky to have that background. And my dad was also my high school wide receiver coach. So I had,
man, you got all around.
Yeah. So I was, I look at it as not necessarily discipline, but understanding what it takes to play at a high level consistently. And it's a lot of little things. And I was lucky to have my dad as my mentor and my coach because he didn't let me get away with shit. So, that's what it was. So I understood that, hey, this opportunity might be my last opportunity ever. You never know. So I got to make sure that I maximize it. I got to do extra. I got to do this. I got to do that. And a lot of that was instilled from my dad, the way he carried himself. So I credit my dad to all of my success in college, which he set me up for success by allowing me to understand what it's like at that level and what you need to do to be successful.
So, of course, you go to this Notre Dame. I mean, we can't not talk about it. I mean, you don't bring it up. What was that like? I mean, they're one of the holy grails that people look up to. They're one that are also probably giving you everything under the sun to show, hey, this is where you want to go. What was that visit like for you?
Yeah, so at the time, Brian Kelly was the head coach, and Chuck Martin, who's the head coach of Miami of Ohio, was the guy that was recruiting me. But he's a local guy. He's actually from Illinois. But he was recruiting me. They finally got me to go out there for a visit, and I visited. And obviously, the history of Notre Dame, it speaks for itself. The place is so historic, it's traditional, it's all that good stuff. To me, it was more like, at the time, old school, versus Nebraska was like renovating, and they were getting all this state-of-the-art stuff, and they were like the new school stuff. So I thought that was cool, and they were great in their own way. I just preferred Nebraska. I preferred that. I thought that was so cool. I took a visit there like in the winter. It was a horribly terrible snowy day.
Thank you.
South Bend's not the most exciting town in the world. I mean, there was just a lot of pros but a lot of cons too that I didn't enjoy. So at the end of the day, I got to be the one I'm the one who's going to be there for the next 4 or 5 years. I have to be the one who enjoys it. A lot of my family members were Notre Dame fans. Grew up, went to a Catholic high school.
They're like, you're a shoo-in. You've got to go, right? You've got to go to Notre Dame.
Right. A lot of people thought when that came in the picture, like, oh, well, he's about to flip his commitment. But I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. I love Nebraska. I never asked myself, like, well, what if I did go to Notre Dame? It doesn't matter. I love Nebraska. I'll never ask myself that question. It's such a great place, and I love, even to say when I do get the opportunity to go back, it's so amazing. It's a good life for a reason, and I'm always welcome back with open arms, which makes me, it makes me feel special. I think that's awesome.
What do you think is a legacy that you and your classmates left there at your high school before you did go on? Obviously, you guys are well-rounded competitors. You guys, brought home some championship stuff and kept the tradition going. But what do you think was the legacy your group left that school with?
So I won my first state title as a sophomore at Montini. So that was a big one. I won it again as a junior, and then I won it again as a senior. And I just think the legacy we left was just knowing how to win. Just doing everything right, being disciplined, doing all the small things correct. I mentioned this earlier. We went out there to practice. We practiced hard. We practiced fast. We just set that. That was our standard. Our standards is we're going to win, and we're going to do what it takes to win. And we had a lot of really good leaders, a lot of really good coaches that we were all on the same page, and that was the standard. And we were going to meet that standard. And if you didn't meet that standard, well, then you're not going to be with us. But yeah, just a winning legacy. Three in a row is it's unbelievable. We had a lot of good athletes too. My senior year, that went on to play at other bigger colleges, Cincinnati, Iowa. We had a lot of really good players. But yeah, the legacy we left. We knew how to win.
Of course, you got to experience something that not many guys get to experience, and that's winning those championships with your dad. What was kind of the last moment that you remember of your final championship game of knowing that this was the time that your dad's passing your torch on to the next level, but you got to live through those moments that others would dream and wish of, right? Like everybody wants to follow the footsteps, but also knowing that he's okay with wherever you're going to decide to go.
Yeah, and that's, I'm glad you said at the end there, because he was always, it didn't matter that he went to U of I or whatever. He goes, Jordan, at the end of the day, you're going to make the decision because it's you're the one that's going to be there, and you're the one that's going to have to put in the work. It doesn't care what mom wants, what I want, what family members want, what your friends want. It's what you want, and he was clear with that from day one. The second my recruiting started to pick up. But I'm very lucky. I had a storybook ending. My last game in high school, we played Joliet Catholic, and I had 5 touchdowns, 350 receiving. Like, it's just a crazy freaking game. It's just put a stamp on my career there as one of the best in the state. But it was great to be able to do that alongside my dad, on the sideline. I remember, we finished that game and they gave us the medals and we're hosting the trophy. I just remember like walking back with my mom and my dad, just like our arms around us. We were so happy. So much, blood, sweat, and tears were put into the success that we had in Montini for those years. And it was a big moment of relief. And we were just excited for the next chapter, which was Nebraska.
Now, did you graduate earlier? Was that an option back then for you, or was it you had to go all the way through, all the way up to May?
Yeah, it was an option, but I didn't graduate early. So,
of course, you get to make that decision for Nebraska. You had a conversation with Pelini. What is there like a summarized version or a version that people would really enjoy to hear? I mean, everybody loves a good Pelini story, especially when I can only say this from the short little experience when I watched Noah go, like he was committed to Iowa, but he came to a Nebraska. Like just the thought of people like him going from one to the other, like people just really get in their feelings. And I'm not saying a coach can when he thought that he had you locked in.
Yeah. So we, I was committed there. I was a relatively big time recruit. So Nebraska would every once in a while they do their recruiting trips and they just visit their current commits and yada yada yada. So the offensive staff came out. It was Coach Fisher, Coach Tim Beck, who's over at Coastal Carolina now, Coach Garrison, who's the recruiting coordinator, and Bo. And we knew that I decided, as a family, I was going to take an official visit, and that at some point during their visit, we had to tell them. So we're sitting there. We'd always get Rosati's pizza, which is the best pizza in the area. It's not Luminati's. For any of you who think it might be deep dish Luminati, it's Rosati's pizza. So you got the normal pizza. We're all jokes. It's all fun. We're having dinner, and then it came to that moment in the night where we had to tell them. And thank God my dad stepped up to the plate and spilled the news. He's like, "Hey, Coach, you know how much you guys mean to us, and Jordan loves you, and yada yada yada." And I can already tell Coach Pelini was kind of starting to get worked up. He's like, "Okay, what's about to happen here?" And my dad broke him like, "Hey, he's committed, but we have decided he's going to take an official visit to Notre Dame. We just want to make sure that there's no what ifs, and he's 100% because you never know what can happen." And we did that, and it just kind of went silent for a few seconds. And Coach Bo, he kind of like looked down, and his face was getting a little red. And he looked up at us, and he goes, "Jordan, you know what? That's absolutely fine, because Notre Dame can't sniff our jock." And he screamed that. And he screamed that in our family room. Like we were like, "Oh my goodness gracious!" But he ended up. I mean, they were totally cool about it. But he said that, and it was the funniest thing. Like it was so good.
That's the icebreaker of all icebreakers right there. Him really coming out and let you know, okay, well, go ahead and think what you think and go see what you see. But I'm going to tell you, ain't got nothing on us. Of course, you don't know the history of Nebraska. You, of course, see it on the little doggle that you put in and stuff like that. It's not like nowadays where everything is all over the internet. Everything is found and
everything.
And when you think of like your first visit, what was some of the things that stuck out? Of course, during the spring game, it's not just about the fans. Of course, it's also just about the atmosphere that it still creates like it's a game day because, the fans who normally sometimes can't get to the normal games, whether it's price,
right,
availability of tickets, this is their opportunity. What do you remember from that day?
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. Obviously, the stadium is loaded up, and you know how it is in Lincoln on game days. Again, it was a spring game, and on game days, the city of Lincoln just turns red. Right? It gets flooded, and there's holy smokes. Right off the gate, we're blowing off our feet. We stayed at the NBC Suites right there in downtown, and we ended up walking to the stadium. But it was just so cool to see just all the red and how excited that the town was for Nebraska football. And it was just a spring game, glorified scrimmage. So that immediately just blew us off our feet. Then we got to the stadium and we started touring the stadium and the facilities, and the Ndamukong Suh Center, the weight room at the time, was brand new, fresh. And that was just unbelievable. Obviously, we know that Nebraska is like the mecca of college football strength and conditioning with Coach Epley. So it was just so cool to see all that, and all, the weight room was just unbelievable, state of the art. We walk around and all that fun stuff. At one point of the visit before the game, we went up to the coaches' offices, and I had probably 10 family members with me that traveled out there with me.
Okay.
And they took us into like a meeting room essentially, and we're sitting there like, what's going on? Coach Osborne walks in. So we got to meet Coach Osborne. That was awesome. And he talked to my family. He was super nice and open. And like my dad and one of my uncles there, like shaking because again, I'm a young, dumb 17 or 16-year-old, 15-year-old. Like, this is cool. Who is this guy?
Who is this guy? He looks a little aged for me to be talking right now.
Right. But my dad and my uncle and my other friend were, oh my God, do you know who that is? Like they were just blowing off their feet. And I thought that was just so cool that he took the time to do that and meet with my family individually. That was cool. But like I mentioned that it felt like home. It felt like home because of the effort that the staff at the time made and just across the board how accommodating they were. It was unbelievable and I loved it. I fell in love, absolutely in love with it.
You of course get going in your season and of course there's quarterback controversy, there's stuff like that. What's some things that you experienced differently in college that you didn't have to go through in high school when it came just even to the roster? Because especially it's probably a little worse now than it was then. People come and go more than they do then, right? Like you had the players there, but it was a matter of who's number one, who's number two. And you as a receiver have to continue to build trust with no matter who is the quarterback. Like you can't go, okay, I'm more for Kellogg or I'm more for Armstrong or more. You have to just do your job. Is that confusing compared to high school where 90% of the time you know who the quarterback is and you know who you can really work one-on-one with a lot?
Yeah, I was lucky because my I don't know, I shouldn't say lucky, but my sophomore, junior, and senior year in high school, I had 3 different quarterbacks.
Okay.
So I kind of learned to adapt. And at the end of the day, we're wide receivers. We catch the football, right? It doesn't matter who's throwing the football. We catch it any which way we need to. We go, we make plays, period. So I had that mindset. It didn't matter. And while I was at Nebraska, I had Taylor Martinez, I had Ron Kellogg, and I had Tommy. And Riker Fife would get in there as well. Because Tommy had some injuries and stuff like that. So I had 4 different quarterbacks at Nebraska, but we spent a lot of time in practice getting reps with those guys. So it wasn't a surprise, right? Those guys split a lot of equal reps, whether it's just routes on air or it's a team period here or 7 on here. So it was easy. It wasn't as hard as you think. Now in this day and age where they'll put on a game and they'll talk about, well, this guy who just transferred in from here, this guy just transferred in from here, this guy, like, holy smokes. How the hell do you build up any sort of chemistry when the wide receiver room is a revolving door? It's hard. And I think you see those woes. I think when you watch college football, you definitely see those woes compared to 10, 15 years ago. There's not as much chemistry between these guys. There's just not. And that's a direct effect of the transfer. Guys are just, it's a revolving door. I
had a question. If I had no idea Jeff Sims was still around. I'm gonna be blatantly honest. I don't get to watch college football like I used to. But when I saw he was doing good things, obviously I want good things for anybody, no matter who you are. But to know that he was still in college blew my mind.
Yeah.
And now to see what he's doing blows my mind.
Yeah, I saw that he was. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with what he's doing, but I did see that he was still. I was like, holy smokes, this guy's been around forever. And then there's a million reasons why there was COVID. There's different ways you get extra years now, yada yada yada, whatever it might be. It's just the whole atmosphere of college football it's changed. It's changed. It's just crazy. I watch the games. It seems like every person's a transfer. Very rarely do you see, well, this is Bob so-and-so, and he's a 3rd or 4th year here. He's a senior. He's been here at Nebraska for all these years. Very rarely do you see that. Here's a transfer from Montana. Here's a whatever it might be. So it's hard. It's very difficult to build up chemistry when you just don't get as many reps with these guys.
Well, when you talk about chemistry and you said something early, just a little bit ago, that, wide receivers got to do one job, and that's just catch the ball. We'll go ahead with another quick clip here of Jordan Westerkamp just catching a ball or something.
They're down at 6. Armstrong for Westerkamp again. And he caught it behind his back. Unbelievable. Westerkamp's a magician as he pulls it in at the 48 for the first down. That is just outstanding. Tim Beck told us when we were chatting with him yesterday that if you throw it anywhere near Jordan Westerkamp, he's going to catch it. That catch illustrates that point.
All right, what did Peliti say right there? Come on, man. He comes right up to you. Come on now. You remember that to the T.
Yeah. Hey, that was a pretty good catch, huh? Just smiling. Oh, yeah. Good times. Good times. Hey, by the way, that was good in the NFL. That was 2 feet in for those wondering.
That's right. 2 feet in. It was just you put the ball near you. You said it well, and of course you showed it in your high school career. Was there any catches that you had, some amazing catches like you did for Nebraska? Because I feel nowadays it's obviously all over the internet. I know you share some good catches of the one-handers and all that I capture when, especially high school kids. Like I share that for the videos that I get to go shoot. But what do you remember of your high school compared to your college career of those amazing catches?
Same thing. I did some crazy stuff in high school. What's funny is I actually have some really old practice from Nebraska, some like one-on-one tape and some 7-on-7 where I'm doing this crazy stuff. It's never been put out there. That's just as crazy as that stuff. So people see that and they go, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's luck." It ain't luck. There's so many things that I did previous to that, and not just making those catches, but drills that I worked. And again, it goes back to my dad who would make me 100 balls every day in the summer. You're getting out there early to practice, you're catching footballs. After we're staying, you're catching more footballs. We're going to the back ends and I'm throwing it up and you're making all these crazy catches. I'm making you hold 5 footballs and making you catch one-handed with the other hand that doesn't have a football. So I did so many drills.
Did you do the goalpost drill?
Yes.
Put your hands around the goalpost?
Yep, almost definitely.
Fingers.
Yeah.
You can just feel it now. You can feel it now.
Most definitely. So I mean, they're all the time, and obviously, that to get better at catching, you have to catch. But there's also a mindset that you have to have that almost score there. When that ball is in the air, we catch that damn football. It doesn't matter where it is. If we can get a finger on that football, we're catching that football. Period. It's non-negotiable. And when you think like that, you start making some crazy ass catches.
Well, and of course, you and Tommy Armstrong had a lot of string of great catches and throws. What was some of the things that you really, of course, you had, Kellogg, you obviously also had Martinez, but the cannon on Tommy Armstrong, I got to watch personally these past 2 years with his arena football with the Omaha Beef. Of course, the StreamYard is brought to you by the Omaha Beef. Just what was some of the things that you remember? Even, I mean, you guys ended up turning into brothers, turning into best friends. That obviously, were you guys in each other's wedding? Like, I think maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you guys went well beyond, and I think it's those connections as a wide receiver quarterback that totally make a night and day difference.
100%, and that's like that. It goes back to that chemistry thing, right? It's just there's something to it, and Tommy, obviously, he's an all-time great, and I expect him to be in the first, before I get this, shout out to, because Kenny was in one of those videos. Shout out to Kenny Bell on his Hall of Fame induction this past season. Unbelievable and well deserved.
Afro Thunder.
Yes,
I got to interview him because he's a part of the Herd at Sports, which I do. And
okay, that's awesome.
He's a good character, man.
Yeah, he is. But back to Tommy, he's an all-time great, and he's the leader in almost all the categories in terms of the quarterback position. So he should be at least up for nomination here in the next couple of years. I'm not sure on all the rules and all that stuff, but he's a stud. He's always been a stud. He was a stud in high school. What a great quarterback, dual threat. The amount of plays that he can keep alive with his feet. Not a lot of QBs can do that. And it's just he was so talented and a very fun quarterback to play with because he can get you the ball in so many different ways. And obviously, you mentioned the cannon. Yeah, throw a bullet through your hands there. So you had to be ready. You had to be ready for it. I'll tell you that much. But again, like he had that arm strength and he can make crazy throws. When you thought he couldn't, you get the ball in there, he can get it in there. He had the arm strength to do it. So dynamic and such a great guy. And like you mentioned, one of my best friends for life. The brotherhood of football. It's so great. I always tell my current guys that I coach now, like, man, there's so many things about the game of football that will carry on long after you hang it up. So just enjoy the ride and enjoy the life lessons and enjoy the brotherhood as you go through it.
You, of course, go through your 4 years, or did you have 5 years as a
I had 5.
You had 5.
I redshirted my first year.
Redshirted your first year. What was kind of the thing that you felt you were able to accomplish in those 5 years for yourself as individually, and what was some of the team things that you felt like you were able to help with, whether it's the culture, whether it's just the atmosphere, because of course it is a rocky road, right? I mean, I've talked to Joe Doman, who had 3 different defensive coordinators, and no one understands what it's like to have to retry out every time. Like, so much more to college football when it's not like a Tom Osborne that's there for 20 years, right? Like, you're not that lucky to have those longevities of greatness, right?
Yeah. Well, obviously you go to college as a kid and you leave as a man. So a lot of developmental things in that regard. But in terms of the football stuff, yeah, I'm through my 3rd year. We finish up the season to go to Iowa, have a good game. We beat them. Next day, Coach Pelini gets fired. That was essentially the first time I had adversity, at the college level. Lose a coach, and we know how that works. Your coach is gone, so the rest of the staff's gone. So you lose your position coach, everybody that you're familiar with. And then you're left with the uncertainty, like, oh, well, who's going to be the next guy? And then obviously, the team leaders have to step up because you don't have those leaders anymore at the top, right? The coaches, they're gone. So you got to mature real quick as a player, and leaders have to step up. So I stepped up, and we had leaders on the team that just kept everybody together as we waited to see who the next coach would be. And then obviously Mike Riley was hired, and I love Coach Riley. He was hired. He brought in his staff. He brought in Coach Keith Williams, who's one of the best wide receiver coaches in the country. They brought those guys in, and I had them my junior and senior year, and I was a captain my junior and senior year, which is one of the greatest things that I ever accomplished as a Husker. Being a captain, that's player voted, so that meant a lot to me, and part of that leadership, it started when we lost that coaching staff because we needed guys to step up.
What was kind of like, if you thought if that happened like this day and age, what do you think your outlook would have changed of what you would have done? Or do you feel because of the way that you were brought up through your dad and seeing that happen, just as far as a tight knit, it starts with the players and then works its way out to the coaches, right? And I mean, everybody says a better team is a player-led team. Over
100%.
Do you think you would have still made it through the final 2 years?
Yeah,
it would have been as easy.
Yeah, it's tough too because then you look at how easy it is to transfer now. So you lose a coaching staff. There's probably 50 plus guys that are leaving. With that, which wasn't even a thought, back when I was playing in the Stone Age. But yeah, it's tough because again, I was raised a certain way, and I had that background. But it's tough. You never know. There was never a thought of in my head that when Pelini was fired, well, am I going to transfer? There was just never that thought. It was
Who was the first person you talked to? Do you remember after that happened?
It was over Thanksgiving break, so I was home. And when they got fired, it was almost like all communication was cut off. It was really weird. It was weird, and then we had a kind of an offsite meeting with Coach Pelini, but it was just weird. We were all texting our position coaches, but it was weird. It was almost like it was radio silence, waiting for more information.
Well, because it wasn't as streamlined as it is now. I mean, there's a lot out there, and
Right.
but it was nothing near the streamlined that it is today.
Right. Yeah. And most players know that the coach can be fired before they announce it.
Yeah.
Right. We were told, we got an email. Right. We got an email sent to our college whatever emails, and please. I'm sorry, we got a text to check an email. It was like, please check your emails for information about head coach Bo Pelini. We had no idea. We're like, well, what the heck happened? Is he all right?
So, but you also heard this text email prior to it nationally known, would you say? Or
Yes, 100%.
Okay,
yeah.
so at least there's that in the back pocket of
Right.
They did something in that process better than what some could handle.
100%. Right. Like today that wouldn't happen. You're going to see it on ESPN before you're notified. It's just how crazy information gets out now. That's just the social media and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, we received a text, we checked emails, we found that out, and it sucked. And we tried to communicate with our position coaches, and they were kind of in shock too. I mean, everybody was in shock. It was our 9th win of the season. We went to Iowa, we beat them in overtime. You know, we had a successful season. We're excited. It's Thanksgiving break, and we're all hit with this news. Everybody was shocked. So as you met, like who did I talk to? I mean, I remember talking to my position coach, and he just wasn't much like, we don't know what's going on, what happened. They're trying to figure out what's going on. So there was that. And obviously they brought us back as fast as possible. And just we talked about it. It ended up just being a decision that we call them the third floor people. The third floor people that we don't see ever. Just made a decision, and that was that. It sucked. We kind of had to just figure it out and step up as players and be leaders and hold the team together, because it could go one way or another. Right?
Yeah, I mean, because you guys still had the game to prepare for. It's not
right.
like
we so Bo, exactly right. So and then Bo obviously has to go. Coach Pelini's got to go, and Coach Cotton stepped up and was the intern, whatever it's called. The coach and our position coach were still able to be there. So we still practiced, and obviously we played the bowl game. We had a really close game against USC, but it was just, we were all bummed because we knew after that game that those guys were gone. They were gone. And when we played that last game, they had already hired the new head coach. He was sitting in the stands, Coach Riley. So for that bowl game, so that was a bummer. It was a bummer. And part of me thought, was Coach Fisher is he going to get retained? I was just wishful thinking, because it's just not how it works. It's just not how it works.
Well, and you talked about the coaches and the players coming together. What was some of the seniors on that committee that you remember, the leadership? How did they prepare you guys to take over the leadership for your junior senior year? Like what's some things that you remember maybe they did or didn't do to make sure that you guys were, one, ready for the last game as players, and then two, like, hey, if you're staying here now it's your realm to take over and your way to lead.
Yeah. And we were able to still have most of the coaching staff with us after, like I just mentioned, until the bowl game was over. And Coach Fisher, I remember him bringing me into his office. Like, well, this is Kenny's last year. You're the guy now. You're the leader of this room. You're the guy. And you got to understand that. And you got to carry yourself a certain way. So we had that conversation with Coach Fisher. And then some of the other seniors, Amir, Abdullah, and some great people that were great leaders. So we had player-led meetings where we had this talk. I remember sitting there, and we just had to sit there and talk. And we said what I kind of just said. Like, we have two ways this can go. We can stay in it, and you can prepare, and you can understand that what we do now is going to be our resume for this next coaching staff that comes in. Or you can say, screw this, I'm done, I'm out, this is dumb, whatever. So we decided as a team that we were going to stay together. We had a player meeting, we were going to stay together, and we just kept, pushing forward and dealing with what we had to deal with.
Of course, you get through the coaching change. You of course, get through the years of Riley. And of course, how do you guys keep the outside not from deterring you from who you are as a player and the end goal that you currently have? Because obviously, between the end of Pelini and to when you went into with Mike Riley, the outside world of the Huskers was not the realm that you came into and was looking forward to being a part of.
Right.
The fan base talking the way that they did, because I always say, like, that's why I push harder, is because sometimes these keyboard warriors and all these people have things to say about athletes. They have no idea what it took to become who they are, or even,
Right.
as Coach Police said, can't even smell my jackstrap, let alone play the game that you play. It's
Right.
kind of, I know for me, I coached at Omaha South, which is a local Omaha school here, where we went in where winning was number one, and because that's the way we go, right? You want to get these guys to win. But then the athletes on the field are different style athletes. They're more of, your goal is to get them, one, to be better men by the end of the year,
Right.
get them to finish something in their life, and know that if you got them from day one to the end of it and got them through, you did the right thing, because that is that style of kids, right? It isn't about the whole winning and losing. And so dealing with that for so long for myself, that made it, when this part of the Husker history started going awry, and the fact I looked more at the players and seeing some of the things that were working good and bad. I was a DB coach, so I really looked at the defensive side. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's where I looked. And when you see like people trying to, hey, you see the safety trying to tell the linebacker they got to move over, that just tells me that there's confusion in the formation. So then it's beyond the players, it's the whole together as far as coaching and players.
Right.
I looked at it differently. Yes, the losses suck. Don't get me wrong. But as a fan and a coach, I look at it more of, okay, are these players getting to where they want to be?
Right.
In that development,
Yeah, and we did a good job when we were going through that stuff of blocking out the noise, and thank God at the time social media wasn't what it is today, because it could have been a lot different. There were still keyboard warriors, but Twitter wasn't what it was today. We didn't have Instagram, all this other stuff. So we did a really good job of not paying attention to that stuff and just focusing on our goal. And when that was our goal, when that happened, was just, hey, we got to stay together, and we have to make the best of the rest of this time we have together with these coaches and with this current senior class. And we did that. We stuck together. And then when those seniors transitioned out, those coaches left, we had leaders that stepped up that helped maintain, that same goal. Hey, we got to stay together. We are going to be playing football next year. We have to understand the big picture. We're going to get a new coaching staff in, and we got to show these guys that we're still ready to go and play.
What do you think was your hardest thing to transition through that adversity, just for yourself?
I was very close with Coach Fisher, so I was very upset, emotional when I knew that he wasn't coming back, because he had recruited me. I had built a great relationship with him the 3 years I was there. Our families were close, all that good stuff. He was a mentor for me, so that was the toughest thing: losing your position coach. Obviously, you're married to the head coach as well, but you spend a lot more time with your position coach. So, losing Coach Fisher, that was really tough. That was really tough for me. But again, I had a real good support system and all that good stuff, my family and whatnot. You have to get through it. You have to get through it, right? Ride the wave, and we got through it. And then we brought on Coach Williams, who was an unbelievable wide receiver coach, and he helped me develop my game and take it to the next level.
What's the one thing you might remember your dad saying that transition year for you? Because of course, he of course has just the good knowledge of the sport, right? Beyond, and of course he saw it when it was in its prime, and like he said, I mean, Tom Osborne to him and your uncle was like seeing, the next Jesus,
Right. I love it. Yeah, he had a lot of experience, right? And he always tried to use, his life experiences to help me understand, like, hey, this sucks right now, but it's going to get better, and you got to understand that. And just kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and have some perspective. He had coaches too. He had told me this story. I can't remember the coach's names, but he was recruited to U of I by a certain coach. And the second that he signed his letter of intent, that coach left. So he's like, this stuff happens. Coaches will come and go. It happens. You got to focus on your craft and making sure that you get and develop as a wide receiver the best to your ability. So focus on you. Control what you can control. And he really made me understand that. And that sticks with me, even today in my life. Like, there's things that I can't control, and I can't put so much energy into that. I got to focus on me and my family, and how can we improve as human beings and whatnot. And if I handle that and I control what I control, then I can be content and happy with whatever happens.
Of course, you said you got Whiteout is what he goes by on all of his social media, Keith Williams. You get him as a coach. What do you remember of that first practice of just him? Because he's a whole different ball game when it comes to coaching and wide receivers. It's a full course.
I mean, he has had a direct impact on my coaching philosophy. You'll see, like when he posts, he puts #W4L, which stands for Whiteouts for Life. It's a philosophy, it's a lifestyle. I love that, and that's always stuck with me. I still got shirts that he gave me when I was back in Nebraska that have that slogan on it and whatnot. But he's one of the best, if not the best, whiteout coach out there. And he really helped take my game to another level. His knowledge of the game, and to me, what makes a coach great is his ability to be able to communicate his coaching or his teaching, his information in a way that anybody can understand it. And Coach Williams did that better than any coach that I've ever been around.
He slowed the game down a lot, is what I see him do with a lot of wide receivers. Because of course, when it comes to receivers, you're one of the fastest on the field. You're looking for the quickest way to get in and out of breaks.
Right.
I've watched him through Nebraska Elite 7v7. He was out here coaching when they first started.
Yeah.
And just watching him go through his drills with the wide receivers of the progression to get there will end up turning your quickness to another speed, because you understand the process to get through there, instead of just, all right, we're going to run a three-step hook and here we go. It's understanding what is going to happen when you make that first initial step to get out. What is going to happen? You're either going to keep him where he's close by, or you're going to make enough impact to where you could go boom and then hit out.
Right.
And gone. And passes.
He's one of his slogans, like route geometry or something like that. Yeah, he's a complete technician. He's a master of the wideout position, and it's so cool to listen to how he talks about it. You can see the passion and just his experience, and he's got the clientele that kind of show what he's all about. So he's worked with some of the best out there. It's just so cool because everything that he puts out there it's useful information. He's one of the best, and one of my favorite things that Coach DuB does is he really simplifies the wideout game. It's simple but complex, which I love that too. It's simple but complex. So he really makes you understand it, and when you can better understand something, you can execute it better. So he's just one of the best. He's one of the GOATs.
Of course, you knew your ultimate goal was to get to the next level. What was the things that you really took advantage your last 2 years to make it even a possibility, or to have the opportunity?
Yeah, so I mean, just working with him, and it was so cool because like in the off season, NFL guys would come to Nebraska to train with Coach DuB, and we were able to see that up close and see, hey, this is what you need to be able to do at that level to be successful. So that was very cool. So just taking advantage of that and working with Coach DuB as much as I could. And that's what I did. Unfortunately, at the end of my senior year, throughout my senior year, I had 3 pretty devastating injuries that sent my pro trajectory sideways. But just being able to be around him and train with him and do that, that really helped me at least open the door for opportunities in the NFL.
What was the thing that you and your senior class left for Nebraska, and how did you make the Cornhuskers better?
Yeah, it's funny because I keep hearing, like, as I watch these games, well, the last time Nebraska was ranked was 2016. The last time Nebraska had this kind of start was 2016. Well, guess what 2016 was? My senior year. So,
That's right.
Which was almost a decade ago. So it's just, we were a solid group of guys. We had good leaders, and we knew what it took to win, and we had some really gritty wins my senior year where we really battled and we didn't give up, and we had that discipline. We were just a beat up group. I think like our last game against Tennessee, me, Tommy, and Nate, Gary, all captains, were out with injuries. So it's just we were beat up. We were really, really beat up, unfortunately. But we started 7-0, and we were dominating. We were beat up. We were a beat up team throughout the season, dealing with certain things. But we made the most of our opportunities. I think that was our biggest thing. We were super disciplined. and we maximized our ability, and we did everything we needed to do to be successful.
Of course, you look around this last week to the blackout. Who wore it better, you guys or them? Because I'm going to tell you from the fan point of view, I liked your uniforms better, but your helmets, nah.
Yeah,
I like your helmets in the new.
I like last weekend's better. I like what they did with the field too. That was pretty cool.
You had to go with that one. You had to go, oh, where's ours? Is that something that they need to do permanently once a year now?
I think that's very, very cool. It's so funny because like back in 2020 or 2012 to 2016 when I was there, like everything there was state of the art. But right now, what they're doing and the things they do makes all that stuff look like crap. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. They can just, all the renovations, the new facilities, the renovations.
You thought it couldn't get any better, right? You thought
you had better. But I'm sure
you had the Holy Grail,
right? But I'm sure that's how it is. With every previous team is like, well, at that time we had the state of the art stuff, but now look at it. It's just crazy. I'm sure that's how it is with everybody that just keeps kind of going through that cycle. But I love what they're doing. I love Coach Rule. I think they're building a great program there. Year 3, you see a big jump, and they're sitting pretty. What's their record? What, 6-3?
Yeah, 6-3. I think for me this year, you got to give credit where it's due. Those
100%.
1-point losses are not the same, and the fact that last week, like people don't understand, USC is a good team. It's not like it was some punk team that we just lost to or whatever. And yes, we had the opportunity, and yes, there was mistakes, but that's every game. There's going to be mistakes. But to know that you were in the game and I mean, you weren't being blown out, because of course that was my bigger fear, right? Like you're doing all this hype, and all of a sudden, what's going to happen?
Right.
Don't get a dub would have been the icing on the cake.
Right. It's tough, and obviously devastating injury with Ryan. But I look at it, and again, didn't grow up in Nebraska, didn't know much about Nebraska, so I don't even sniff Nebraska Kool-Aid. Sometimes we can get sometimes there's some unrealistic expectations.
Yes, I love that.
So I look at it, last year I think we finished 7-6. Let's win one more game this year. And that's progress. It's not a national championship every year. Let's win one more game. Let's keep building and building and building. And there's a lot of games left. So I absolutely see us doing that. Obviously, with Raiola and that injury, that shakes things up a little bit. I think the young kid, I think what's his name? The freshman. Yeah. He's real athletic. And he's pretty dangerous on his feet. So we'll see what he can do. And it's tough on him, man. I mean, you're sitting there, big time quarterback goes down, you're thrown in there, hey, let's go. So kudos to him for being able to jump in there and finish out the game. There's a lot of question marks, but I think they'll get that 8th win this year. I think they'll get there. They're doing a lot of good things. I love Coach Rule. I love what Coach Sorts has done with the wide receiver group. I think he's doing a great job. It's his first year there. A lot of positives. Obviously, like I said, Raiola getting hurt, that's a blow. Get him back healthy. He's got to take care of business in the athletic training room and whatnot, and he'll come back healthier than he was before.
When you look at your end of your college career and you look at the opportunities that you went to try, NFL, XFL, CFL, what's some things that you wish you knew when you were going through that process that maybe you might also pass on even to your own players as they look for that golden ticket to get them to where they want to be? What was some things that you went through? Of course, injury that senior year didn't help to get to where you wanted to be, but it was, of course, still a learning curve that now you're able to pass on to others.
So that's a great question. And I mentioned earlier when we started that I have a sports performance facility, and I train athletes across every sport. We are very football heavy just because of my background, but the biggest thing I preach there is availability is the best ability. And one thing I look back on my career that I wish I did more, I wish I took care of my body more. I had some injuries that were unavoidable. I took a knee to my back playing University of Illinois, and I broke 3 of my transverse processes off my spine. Unavoidable, knee to my back. I can't control that. But there are things that were also wear and tear injuries that maybe if I spent more time in the athletic training room, that could have been avoided. You don't know. But when I look back, I feel like I could have spent some more time taking care of my body, whether that's getting better sleep, eating better, taking the time, the extra 10, 15 minutes after practice, before practice to prep my body, to recover my body. That's the biggest thing I preach. And it's my athletes at our facility. Availability is the best ability. I just couldn't stay healthy. Going into my senior year, I had to get a sports hernia surgery. They sent me to Germany. I had to get my adductor muscle reattached to the bone. So I had that going into my senior year. Then I had my back issues where I took a knee and I broke 3 of my transfer crosses in my lower back, which to this day is still like the most devastating thing. It still affects me to this day. And then getting ready for our bowl game, I catch a ball, make a move, and I feel something grabbing in my left knee. I find out that I have a torn meniscus, which isn't a big deal. But I had something called a chondral defect, where the cartilage around your femur head wears down so much that the bone becomes exposed. And I chipped the bone off my femur head, so my knee was falling apart. So I had that, and I had to get an emergency knee surgery. Otherwise, there was no way I was going to be able to have any opportunity to play in the pro. So I had all that stuff my senior year, and I had to get that surgery. I missed my last game. I do essentially accelerated rehab to just be able to do like a mock pro day, and I just had to go. That window of opportunity in the pros is this big. You don't have to, unless you're like a first round, second round guy. This is your window of opportunity. So I had to. I was rushed back, and I just kept getting injured, and I was just completely trashed head to toe. I still have a torn labrum in my shoulder from my sophomore year in Nebraska. Amir had an awesome run against McNeese State, and at the end, I threw a block, and I overextended and landed. And I tore my labrum, and that's still to this day torn. So I had a block at the end of his play against McNeese State.
You're welcome, Amir. You're welcome.
This was for you, Amir. Okay. I saw Amir last week or a couple weeks ago at the Colts game.
I saw that. I saw those pictures. Yeah.
This is great. But I'm just completely trashed head to toe, and that's something that people don't see that. They don't know that. That's things that well, why isn't he playing? Well, because he can't move anymore. That's why we're constantly in pain. But that's why when I started my sports performance facility, I preach that availability and just taking care of your body, because athletes, youth, high school, college, pro, they just don't take the time to take care of themselves. It's so important, not only for your performance, but for the longevity of your career. So we're very heavy on that. That's something I would say, advice. Focus on your body, focus on recovery, take the time to understand that you need to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you'll break down.
What was it like when you had to make that decision that football was over? How did that conversation go? Who was some of those that, because you could do it alone, but in order to do it successfully, you got to have, like you said, your support that you already have, your family, right, friends, people that wouldn't go, come on, man, you got one more, but people that would understand all the pain that you went through.
Yeah.
They go, this is over.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it was really tough. You grow up in football your entire life. You've given so much to the game of football, and you're feeling sorry for yourself. And why is this happening to me? I put so much blood, sweat, and tears into the game. Why when I'm getting the most important, part of my football career? Why can't I stay healthy? Why is it happening to me? You feel bad for yourself. But thank the Lord. At the time I met my wife, who was there for me and very comforting and helped me get through it. My family, obviously, helping me get through it. But there came a time towards the end of my career where I hated football. I hated it because I was in pain all the time. I was feeling sorry for myself, and I just did. I wasn't in a great place mentally, but like I just said, thank God for my wife, my family, who lifted me up, my friends who lifted me up. It's tough. And I will say this too: it's okay to get help if you need to get help. We all struggle, whatever it might be. It's okay. So get help if you need. You need to get help. Take care of yourself.
Because that's already the hardest thing in football. Everybody expects you to be this tough guy the whole time. Like
100%.
You cannot not be tough. You can't make that Hail Mary catch and not be the tough guy in the end. Like those are the things that I always hope that if there's one message that we can always reach with every every interview that I do, no matter who you are and what level that you've gotten to, is just the understanding of a mental part that is the hardest thing when it
Right.
comes to sports, but it's life in general, right? Like, and that's what I always try to relate people to. Like, yes, I get to talk to some awesome, and I'm very blessed to talk to great athletes, but I want to also show people in the right way that one, this guy right here can say, my mental wasn't right. And luckily I had people around me, because or else that help isn't always there, because
Right.
I expect you to be, come on, man, you the tough guy. You're
Right.
the guy who did all this. No, there's a part, and I just feel in this day and age, and even more with the social media, there is no relax from it. There is no just breaking away from it and being able to get your mental back, because everybody is still hitting you up, whether it's a DM, whether it's a text, whether, especially if it's you played for their team or you're thinking you're playing for their team.
Right.
Only imagine what those inboxes look for some of the Husker players nowadays.
Right. It's tough. So, and I'm glad we're talking about this. And it's just, to me, it came to a point where I was just, I started just to hate it. But it was, again, I fell back on my dad and my family who just kind of looked at me and said, listen, it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to tell us that you feel like shit all the time. It's okay that this might be the end of your career. So, find that support system, whatever that might be, whether it's, a family member, a friend, maybe it's therapy, whatever you need, it's okay. It's okay. Do it. Take care of yourself.
Well, I'll get you out of here on this only because, of course, someone asked this earlier, but it just wasn't in the right time or frame where we were. But, of course, the walk-on program, you were able to see it go around you. You probably have some great teammates that are great friends of yours that got that opportunity through the walk-on. It's no longer available. Of course, the numbers have cut back. So this opens up to where JUCO could be an option,
Right.
along with lower, different divisions. What's some good advice that you have for recruits to understand, one, what JUCO is, and I know for me what I've known, and probably this might be something, but it's 18 months. If you can give them 18 months, you could end up to wherever you want to be, but you got to
Right.
invest in something that's harder than even high school. And what I mean by that is you don't have the amenities that maybe you even had in high school, depending on where you went, right? Like,
Right.
there's
No, very true.
to understand. So what's some good advice that people should understand when it comes to college football nowadays compared to when you played? Walk-ons are no longer, so these
Right.
programs are going to impact the bigger D1s more than
Right. Yeah. Again, whole different atmosphere, right? With the changes that have been made, JUCO has become a much more likable option for these guys to take, right? There's so many avenues you can take to get yourself to D1 now, right? That's everyone's goal, D1. And maybe that might not be realistic, but that's everyone's goal. Is they want to play D1. They want to get a scholarship. They want to get school paid for. They want to play a game and get paid to do it. JUCO now has become such a great avenue for these guys because of like I said, the atmosphere of college football now. So JUCO, for guys that might not have been recruited, or maybe they're a bounce back guy, maybe they're a guy that struggles academically, they can come to us. We can help get them film, and they get to play college football. We can help get them film. We can help them develop, whether maybe it's maturity, maybe it's physically. Maybe you're a bounce back guy, and that we gotta work on this or that. It's a great option for guys. And again, it's it's a 2-year a deal, JUCO, right? It's 2 years, but we can get you more film, and then we can get you out there. And our school in particular, the College of DuPage, we have a long list of guys that we've helped, whether it's a bounce back guy get back to where they want to play, or it's a guy that was at a smaller school in high school that didn't have the film, develop them to get them to where they want to play. There's so many stories about that. And I even look at a guy who was on my team in Nebraska, Randy Gregory, was a JUCO player. One of the best, right? One of the best. So, don't look at JUCO as something negative. It's just a different avenue to get you where you want. If you look at it in that light and you take it seriously.
Well, it's a great stepping stone and opportunity. I think the fact of being able to see the field continuously after high school is going to make a difference in the long run if that's your ultimate goal. But it doesn't mean that you have to. If you are that type that is okay to be second or third, people get injured, right? I mean, we stuff. So be ready. That's all I can say either way. But Jordan, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your vulnerability and like you said, availability, just to kind of let other athletes also know, when you're looking for the fact that you could be great, it isn't something that comes free. It isn't something that doesn't come with hard work, mental struggles, adversity, whether it's coaching, whether it's life in general. But you're about to have a good family coming up, and good luck on coaching in your championship for the first time. And, as far as at the next level, that'll be a lot of fun in December at College of DuPage. And we'll be looking for you. What do you think Nebraska's going to finish these last couple games?
I think they get 8 wins. I think they get that +1 win from last year.
Before the bowl game or after? Come on.
Before.
Okay. All right.
I think they figure, obviously with Riley out, they got to figure some things out, but I think they figure out a plan and they go get it done.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time, and once again, go Big Red. We'll see you.
Big Red, baby. All right. Thanks so much.
The standard is the standard. We set the standard.